Ayton is now a Laker. Yesterday, LA filled that donut hole in their lineup by agreeing to a 2-year deal with center, the former #1 overall pick. Ayton had worked out a buyout with the Blazers because he wanted to play for a winner. He's one of only 4 players to average 10 points and 10 boards over the last 4 seasons. With that, we bring in NBA reporter Dave McMenamin. All right, Dave, what more can you tell us about the opportunity for DeAndre Ayton now that he's a Laker?
Christina, this was a mutual need for both Ayton at the stage of his career he's in, and obviously the Lakers needing to find a center, because we saw the way they lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves with Redick completely dominating in the closeout Game 5, with the Lakers not having a center on the court. Ayton's about to turn 27. Think back just a few years ago, he was leading a big part of the Phoenix Suns team getting to the NBA Finals. Then the Suns gave up on him 2 years ago, and there were certainly some questions about his dedication and his overall serious or lack thereof approach to the game. But Scott Brooks, who's an assistant coach for the Lakers, he was an assistant coach in Portland. He vouched for Ayton, believing that he can help get the most out of him in LA, and he shares an agent in Bill Duffy with Luka Doncic. Doncic has a relationship with Ayton going back to the 2018 draft when Ayton was #1 and Doncic was #3, and certainly that agent, Bill Duffy, helped facilitate the move to get the Lakers their center, and now we'll see what they do with a couple more roster spots to figure out.
Yeah, didn't get the most of him last season either, only playing in 40 games. Now the Lakers will be hoping he can be a consistent presence here for them. Meanwhile, LeBron James opted into the final year of his contract on Sunday. There's been a lot of speculation in the last few years about his future. Dave, but what have you been hearing?
Well, first of all, LeBron's enjoying his summer. He's still paying attention, I'm told, to the moves that the Lakers have been making in free agency. It's not just Ayton. They signed Jake LaRavia to a 2-year deal, a wing forward with some defensive tenacity and playmaking skills on the offensive end. He's back in Northeast Ohio, spent some time with his high school teammates, and obviously his charitable efforts are still very much part of his life, and it's centered in Northeast Ohio and in Akron. But listen, I talked to Bronny James on Sunday yesterday at the Lakers facility where he had just finished a practice with the Lakers Summer League team. Bronny said he hasn't been paying any attention to the speculation that's out there, and he said he thinks the Lakers are going to be a lot better and improved next year compared to this past season. Well, how does that happen? I don't think that's Bronny talking about a team that would not involve his father playing in year 23 for the Lakers. So again, if you read the statement from Rich Paul, it was about in the moment, LeBron James wanting the Lakers to improve so he has a good chance to play winning basketball every night next season. That DeAndre Ayton move certainly was a step in the right direction, but the Lakers are still looking to possibly trade for another center, look for some shooting and point guard depth as well.
Like father, like son, keeping their priorities straight. Dave McMenamin on SportsCenter. Thank you.
You got it, Christina.
All right, let's continue on the LeBron talk, and we bring in Anscape senior writer David Dennis Jr. Double D. You heard Dave McMenamin talk about Rich Paul, talking about LeBron. You know, Rich Paul also said that 4 teams had reached out to him about LeBron. Do you think LeBron James finishes his career as a Laker?
So if this is LeBron James' last year of his career, then yes, he will finish his career as a Laker. After that, it is anybody's game. No, he's not getting traded this offseason, not getting traded this year. Let's throw that noise out there. But after that, who knows? The Lakers are concerned about trying to make sure Luka Doncic sticks around, and they're ready to get into the Luka Doncic era. Who knows what the LeBron-Luka marriage will look like this year? Who knows what LeBron even wants for his last year in terms of that last shot to win a championship, and if the Lakers are even positioned to do that, and if other teams are positioned to do that. I'm not leaving anything off the table for LeBron James, who is now entering a time when he is on the last year of his contract, going to be a free agent for the first time, where he is, does not have a 1-and-1, where it's not really up to him about what happens this year. I think that we're in a situation that's uncharted territory for LeBron James, and for him to pick out this last year for what he wants to do, who knows?
Okay, so let's continue on to talk about the future. They've been iconic Laker duos in the past. I mean, Magic and Kareem, Shaq and Kobe. Look, Luka, LeBron now. Once LeBron eventually moves on, who would be let's say, the dream co-star to pair with Luka Doncic in LA, and why, in your opinion?
So we're talking dream co-star.
Yes.
Anybody you could pluck out from
Yes.
the league or from anything. We're not talking about salary caps or anything logistics. It's got to be Jokic. These guys are like a buddy cop movie that's waiting to happen. They go out, they hang out together. They always doing little pranks on each other. They're like best buds. And what's better than a dude who just wants to ride his horses and another guy who wants to just hang out and they go out and win championships because that's just how good they are. Luka and Jokic is prime time TV, whether it's Lakers or anybody. Just seeing them together, being great, hanging out, being sort of nonchalant about how they do things as they do it. Who would not want to see that?
Yeah, it's Step Brothers NBA version. I love it.
There you go.
David Dennis Jr., appreciate you. Center, we are in the height of NBA free agency, 4 days in. You know what that means? Our senior NBA insider, Shams Charania, is here alongside Christina Alexander. I'm Brian Custer. Listen, we're 4 days in. Shams has got the sale because news is always breaking. We know that the Lakers have finally got the center. They went and got DeAndre Ayton. What can you tell us? What does that mean for them going forward, considering Rich Paul has already come out and says LeBron wants to play for a championship caliber team this season?
It means it's a step in the direction of trying to build that championship quality team again. Rob Pelinka, the team's president and general manager, he's been saying since the end of last season that we need a center, we need a lob threat, we need an anchor for Luka Doncic, and now they get the #1 pick from the 2018 draft, the same draft Luka Doncic was in. So now they have the #1 and the #3 pick in that draft. So you get DeAndre Ayton. It's just the start, though. They get Jake LaRavia as a wing free agent. They're still working to shore up their front court depth. I'm told they're in talks with multiple free agents on bringing a center to Los Angeles as well to back up DeAndre Ayton. So we'll see between now, the next several days, look for them to potentially lock in another center.
All right, speaking of different talks, let's bring in Anscape senior writer David Dennis Jr. to this conversation. And David, how much does DeAndre Ayton move the needle here for LA in your eyes?
Okay, let's start with the positive here. Yes, he is a center. Yes, he's better than Jackson Hayes. Yes, he may get you 10 and 10 a game, and he's a lob threat for Luka. If you're a Lakers fan, stop listening to me after that, because I don't have much more good to say about what DeAndre Ayton is going to do in terms of raising the level of this Lakers team. This does not make them a contender, of course. This does not make them really that much better, because we have so many questions about DeAndre Ayton, especially when it comes to looking at what he left behind in these two teams. There's been a lot of questions with Portland and Phoenix about his desire, about his maturity, about how he is in the locker rooms. And you're coming to a Lakers team where they're trying to win now. LeBron wants a championship right now. Luka is trying to figure out if he's going to stay with this team. This team is in flux a little bit, and add in the fact that J.J. Redick has a short leash on players if they don't show that toughness and tenacity that he's looking for. I'm not sure if this moves the needle in the right way, and we may be looking at towards the end of the season, this moves the needle in the wrong way for the Lakers.
All right, we'll have to see it, how that pans out. Sean, back to you, because there are a number of free agents still looking for homes. I mean, Chris Paul, Al Horford. Let's start with Chris Paul. What are you hearing?
Chris Paul has levels of interest from the Clippers, Suns, and the Bucks. I'm told he had a conversation with Bucks officials on Wednesday. He told the Pat Show several weeks ago that his preference is to stay on the West Coast. He is sorting through options, though, right now, whether it's on the West Coast, a team like Milwaukee. We'll see where his future could go. Al Horford is another major free agent right now. I'm told he is reviewing multiple options, including the Warriors, the Lakers, but also retirement. He's 39 years old. He just finished season 18. I'm told it would be a surprise if he makes a final decision by this weekend. He certainly earned the right to make a decision at his own time. I will say, though, that the Warriors are hopeful about where they stand in all this if Al Horford decides to play again.
Yeah, two players with a lot of experience here. That's no secret. David, let's bring you back into this conversation. When we talk about Chris Paul, Al Horford, which of these players will be more impactful on their new teams this following season?
I think it's Chris Paul, and all you have to do is look at OKC and the fact that they were welcoming this dude like he'd been with that team for years. He played 1 year at OKC and raised their level and sort of became a mentor for those players. And that's how SGA is treating him like a returning star during this playoff run. I think that Chris Paul, what he does is he elevates every team that he is a part of, and he is a good example for a lot of those young players that they carry on, even in the years after he is gone from that team. I think there's nothing like having Chris Paul on a young squad for what he can do this season and what he can teach them going forward for the rest of their careers.
Yeah, still an interesting future there for both of them, especially Chris Paul, as you mentioned. David, Shams, thank you so much.
SportsCenter, what can Brown do for you? Apparently, for most Knicks fans, not much. His hiring has left the orange and blue fan base ambivalent. NBA reporter Tim Bontemps is with us. Okay, Tim, so now that Mike Brown is in the fold, what might the Knicks be doing next, do you think?
Well, look, the first thing they had to do, as you said, Brian, was get Mike Brown hired as their coach, or get a coach hired to replace Tom Thibodeau, which they've done that. They signed Gershon Yabusele the other day to the non-taxpayer mid-level, the one signing they had above the minimum. They also signed Jordan Clarkson, two guys that will give them bench scoring and production that they didn't have outside their top 7 guys last year. We'll see if the Knicks can add to their bench now over the coming days. They should have some playing time and obviously the New York spotlight to offer. And then more than anything, they've just got to get settled in with this new reality that they're in. And as you mentioned, the Mike Brown hiring here has left kind of a flat feeling around the Knicks. This is not the kind of splashy hire you would expect from a team that dismissed their head coach after making it to the conference finals for the first time in a quarter century. However, I would point fans back to 30 years ago when the Yankees, after firing Buck Showalter in a similar situation, went out and hired Joe Torre, guy who's the same age as Mike Brown, 55, had 3 prior stops like Mike Brown, and was not lauded certainly as a winning hire. He was called Clueless Joe on the back page of the New York Daily News at the time, and he went on to win 4 championships and make the playoffs 12 years in a row. I'm not saying the Knicks are about to have a dynasty with Mike Brown, but he is a guy who's been to the finals, has won a ton of games as a coach. You see there his record, well over 500. He did a great job getting Sacramento back to the playoffs for the first time in a long time. And of the available candidates, I think he was clearly the best fit and should be able to give them an opportunity to make the deep playoff run everybody in New York is expecting.
Yeah, also former 2-time coach of the year as well. Let's pivot to the West because the team Mike Brown was coaching for at one point, the Warriors. Jonathan Kuminga, restricted free agent. What are you hearing about his future?
Yeah, this is going to be one of the really interesting stories, Brian, coming up over the rest of free agency. We've seen a flurry of moves, obviously, over the past couple of weeks, both leading up to and after the start of it at 6 p.m. on Monday. But Kuminga is sitting out there now as the best player available, a restricted free agent with a lot of talent. You see there he averaged 15 points per game last year. And in flashes, Kuminga has looked like a guy who could be an all-star. He had 30 points in multiple games against Minnesota in the second round of the playoffs. However, he also has been a guy who has been inconsistent in his play and in his effort at different points, and that has led him to be in and out of Steve Kerr's rotation. It's led to a polarizing tenure in Golden State, and now he enters the restricted free agent market in a year, Brian, where there is no salary cap space for anybody to sign him with. So he's either going to be back in Golden State or the Warriors are going to have to come up with a sign and trade possibility with another team. Now, there are teams that are in a modern situation that could be interesting to make it elsewhere, but getting a sign and trade done is a difficult proposition for a bunch of salary cap rules I'm not going to bore people with. So it is a tough situation to be in any year as a restricted free agent, but in a year like this where there's no salary cap space, it's even more difficult, and that's why this situation with Jonathan Kuminga really is going to come to the fore, because we haven't seen the Warriors do anything yet in free agency, and a lot of that has hinged on what is going to happen with Kuminga and his salary slot. It'll be very interesting to see what happens in the coming days and weeks now.
Certainly has the talent. He's shown flashes, as you pointed out, to be a star. We'll see what happens with him.